Carol Roth joins us now, along with Forbes media chair and editor-in-chief Steve Forbes. Okay, this story. Inflation, Steve, is rising higher than expected at 3.4%. I mean, that's reversing the cooling trend. What did you make of this? I mean, this is complicating the Fed cutting rates this year and also the 2024 race.
Well, it just goes to show the Federal Reserve shouldn't be trying to run the economy. And any idea they have that they can juice up the economy this year, I think is going to be proven wrong. What I think they will do, and it won't get many headlines, they're going to start to try to manipulate bank reserves, cut the cost of bank reserves so banks start lending again, tell the regulators, urge the banks to start lending again, try to juice the economy.
You know, Carol, I want your reaction to former President Trump last night. Carol, you know, he really stuck to policy. This is on the Fox News town hall, Carol. We've got inflation now veering toward 18% compounded under Biden. And watch Trump also say he's picked his running mate, but he's not revealing it yet. Watch.
Who would be in the running for vice president?
Well, I can't tell you that, really. I mean, I know who it's going to be.
What about any of the people who you've run against? Would you be open to mending fences with any of them?
I will. I've already started to like Christie better. We're going to have the greatest economy in the world, which we don't right now. We have horrible, horrible inflation. But I was going to be energy dominant. We were energy independent, and we had your bills down low. We had your gasoline for the car down to $1.87 a gallon. We had it down even lower than that at some points. Now it's at $4 and $5, and that's not acceptable. Your home heating bills are 4 and 5 times higher than they were with me. I'm not going to have time for retribution. We're going to make this country so successful again. I'm not going to have time for retribution.
That was the line. What do you think, Carol?
I think that could not come soon enough, Liz. Look, this has been an absolute disaster of the presidency. Every single day, we're seeing a new executive branch rule that is doing something to put up barriers to making the middle and working class successful. Obviously, Bidenomics has been a horrible permanent tax on the middle class, and things, you know, are just trending in the wrong direction, whether it's with the economy, whether it's with energy independence, whether it's at the border. So hearing something like that has to get people excited, and I'm not sure that we can wait another year for that to happen.
Yeah, what do you think, Steve? Because, you know, there's also this news coming in. You know, the Biden White House wants to electrify the entire U.S. economy. Hertz rental car giant, the rental car giant Hertz, they just said they're going to back off renting out electric cars. They're going to sell off a third of its electric vehicle fleet. That's like getting rid of 20,000 electric cars.
Well, it just goes to show the American people don't want what these politicians are trying to shove down their throat. It's all part of a cult that the world's coming to an end. Therefore, we have to force people to do things they don't want to do. Take away a gas stove. Take away pizzas that were made by wood-burning stoves in New York. Junky things like that. So there is a reaction. And the economy itself, even though the Fed might like to goose it up, you've got business investment being flat or down in real terms. You've got the situation where the economy is only improving because of government spending. You look at that latest jobs report. Where did a disproportionate number of jobs come from? Government, healthcare dependent on government. So this is not a strong economy.
Yeah, so what Steve just said, not a strong economy, Carol, and also this. We want your reaction again. We're going to listen to President Trump touting his foreign policy. He's talking about Reagan's peace through strength. Watch what he said about that.
Viktor Orban, he's the prime minister of Hungary. And they asked him, what would you do? There are wars all over the world right now. He said, what I do is make sure the American people vote for Donald Trump for president, because when he was president, China feared him. China feared him. Russia feared him. Everybody. I even got along with Kim Jong-un. You know, getting along with people with hundreds of nuclear weapons is not a bad thing. You know, they want to make it like a bad thing. It's a very good thing. But peace through strength. It would have never happened in Ukraine. Russia would have never gone in. Would have never happened. The recent attack on Israel would have never happened. It's not sustainable for our country. We have millions and millions of people here. It is not sustainable. We are going to have the largest deportation effort in the history of our country. We're bringing everybody back to where they came from. We have no choice. We have no choice.
Carol, so he wrapped that up with his comments about the border collapse. You know, voters are saying, shut the border. You got to stop this. What do you think about everything he just said there, Carol?
I think the most wild thing to me about the Trump presidency is we all expected that he would excel most when it came to the economy and business because that was his background. But I do think foreign policy really was his biggest strength. And it was just as he said, because we projected strength. And he's such a wild card. He's such an unpredictable person. I think that nobody knew what to make of him, and that he projected that strength, that he'd be willing to do whatever it took. He was obviously very focused on the border during his term. So again, these are the kinds of things that we should be doing right now. And unfortunately, President Biden is really abdicating his duty as the commander in chief in terms of protecting this country. That's the number one thing the government is set up to do, and we're not having that right now.
What do you think what Carol just said? What do you think of the former president's remarks, Steve? Final word.
I think it asks a very simple question. The Iranians seized a U.S. commercial ship today. Would they do that under Donald Trump?
No. They probably would not, right?
That answers your question.
They didn't do it at all.
We're not a nation that is respected today. We're weak. Our military is getting run down. Where's the Secretary of Defense? Oh, maybe he's under the table here. And so the people around the world are just fed up and fearful the U.S. is withdrawing. They want a strong U.S., and that's what this election is going to be about. Strong at home economically and strong militarily.
Got it. Steve Forbes, Carol Roth, you guys are terrific. Thank you so much. Good to see you.